Welcome back to the shop. Today I have a very interesting video. This Sovol SV08 is a video I never made. I did the unboxing, I did all the things, but I kinda lost interest because of one major flaw in my opinion. The heated bed is absolute dog shit. It is awful. They are all shaped like a taco, and right over here in front of me I did the last bed mesh and it is saying 0.6 and we can definitely see the taco shape in it. I'm going to do a first layer, and after that, drum roll, we are going to install a graphite bed. And if you're worried about breaking it, I can tell you one thing, brother. The way this arrived, I'm going to show you a clip.
I am never gonna financially recover from this.
Yeah, so I'm not worried this is going to break. Alright, time to do a first layer test and see how bad the mesh is. So right over here you can see 0.602, that was the previous mesh. It is doing all the probing and we will see how bad it is right now. This is going to be the current mesh. It is even worse than before. This is also how the bed is looking. You can see I can eat tacos for days. We have a little bit of a dip up front, but the worst dip is going to be right here in the back. We also have these wings on the side. I am pretty sure we are going to see a very bad first layer. This is a horrible first layer. Perfect example of a really terrible first layer. Now the speeds are a little bit higher than you should. I am running 120 millimeters a second on my first layer. It is going to be the same as my rhetoric. And if you have a decent enough bed, that should not be a problem. Well, in this one it is. So now it's time to see if we can fix it with this graphite bed. This is a graphite bed from the company R3MEN. Nick from R3MEN is also in our Discord, so if you want to have a chat with Nick, then there will be a link down below. You can join us on Discord, have a chat with us, share your experience, but right now it's time to see what is in the box. In the box we can find an 80 grit sanding block, a new DC SSR. So the cabling of the bed, we can see everything is nicely crimped. We also have a sleeving going to the bed. And here I have my first look of a genuine graphite bed. Now this is a very nifty custom heater. We have a bunch of wiring. We can see also this is the logo of R3MEN. We have our fuse right over here, but we can also see we can configure everything for 110 volts and for 220 volt. So if you are going to use 220 volt, then you will need the white wiring. If you are going to go for 110 volt, then you will need the two whites and a yellow. We also have our probe, and I think this is going to be our ground. On the other side, we also have our magnet sitting right over here. But first of all, before we install this plate, I need to do a very important test. Is it real graphite? Subscribe. Right now everything is looking great. It survived the transport. You know what also survived transports? Today's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is your one-stop shop solution if you are looking for anything 3D printed out of metal, all the plastics, CNC services, PCB making, and now they also have sheet metal construction going on. Fast deliveries, decent pricing. So if you are looking for a partner to help you with your projects, give PCB a try. There will be a link down below. Before I install the new plate, we are going to try something out. I bought this little device. This is a thermal camera from FLIR. And together with my phone, I should be able to see how even the bed is heating and if we are going to get very close to what the temperature probe is saying. So time to plug it in and see how bad the original bed is going to be. All right, so for testing today, we are going to set it in control, bed, and I think we are going to start with 65 degrees. So this is during the heat up process, and we can see that the hotspot is in the middle and then the sides are completely lagging behind. This is only after a minute or two. So in the middle I have 65 degrees and right here in the corner I only have 56. So we are about 10 degrees off from the middle and the sides. For the next part, I'm going to put up a video of the FLIR so you can see what is going on my phone. It's probably not going to be great on the camera. So here we go. And we can see right in the middle, we have 66 degrees and in the corners, we have about 63 degrees. We are having 3 degrees of an offset between the middle, which is actually a lot better than I was thinking. So the stock heating solution on the Sovol SV08 is actually not that bad. Now it's time to put in some more heat. We are going to ramp it up to 100 degrees Celsius. Time to redo the testing. It has a thermal limit of 100 degrees Celsius. Now with the graphite bed we can safely bump that up to 120 degrees, but that is going to be for after the replacement. I will show you how you can do that. First of all, let's take a little video. So we are filming it right now and we can see that it is actually overshooting. Corners are around 100 degrees while the center of the bed is 105 degrees. So we can see the complete opposite of what we can see on all the printers. Most of the time we are undershooting the thermal performance of what they are claiming. This time they are overshooting in the center while the sides are looking pretty even. Now 5 degrees is not going to be a major problem, but what I hope to see with the graphite bed is that we are going to get in the, let's say, 1 degree deviance between the middle and the corners of the bed. Graphite beds are highly thermal conductive, so now it's time to let it cool down, replace the bed. I'm going to show you all the steps and then we are going to redo all the testing and see if the graphite bed is going to be worth the price tag. It is going to be the next day. We are going to remove the build plate. For that, I'm afraid we need to remove the bottom panel because we need to loosen some electrical connections and then we need to remove the bed. Now the flex plate, super easy to remove, and I can see right now there are only 6 bolts holding in the bed. So one thing you might have noticed right over here, I did a really poor job of drilling out a hole and replace the fan with a bigger one. The original fan that was sitting in the Sovol SV08 gets the printer. So I took it out with a much more silent fan, and right now it is absolutely heaven to have this printer just sitting idle. Even worse, the Sovol SV08 Max, so the bigger one that came months after this one, or I think even years, has that same annoying little whiny fan. Why? I have absolutely no clue. Alright, time to remove that back panel. So this is the back panel, the really terrible hole I made, but it is doing the job just fine. Time to look inside and see if we can find the connections for the heated bed. So what we can see right over here is actually pretty interesting. We have our power supply and this is looking like the SSR of the heated bed. Now the people of R3MEN have provided us with a new SSR to replace the one in there, but they have not delivered us with some instructions, which is highly unfortunate. So I'm going to look at the website to see if the instructions to replace the SSR are going to be on their sales page. Now I was starting to get worried, but if I look at the website, we can see he has placed instructions on how to replace the current SSR with the new one. So Nick, thank you very much for including how to replace them, but I would like to see a little paper inside the box itself to see how to replace it. Just a little A4 with some instructions would be very nice. Also, something very interesting I found is that the color coding, according to the European spec or regulations, is incorrect. We can see right over here, they are using the correct wire, which is going to be the yellow and green, so these ones, but this one is also coming from a grounding point on the PSU. And this one is just a yellow wire, which is incorrect. And I believe that if you would show this to any governmental overseeing ruler, let's call it like that, then this device would be a hard no when it comes to the market. So how CE is this machine? Judging by this wire, highly doubtful. Old SSR is out, time to try and figure out how I'm going to get the new one in. Probably the reason why the zip ties are included. Now, what is going to be interesting is we have our wiring, we also have our SSR board, and we had a little cable right over here that was plugging into the motherboard. Looking at the manual is that we are going to wire some new cables from this board to the new SSR, and then we are going to power the bed from the PSU to this one. It looks like with replacing to this SSR, we are simplifying the whole deal of heating the bed quite severely. I think it is for the best. Now I asked Nick from R3MEN Why they are including a new SSR? Because they are only doing it for the Sovol SV08. I have a few for my Vorons that I'm going to build, and there were no SSRs included. Now, according to Nick, they have included a new SSR because they had problems with the Creality ones. The Creality ones started to burn out. And I think just to be sure with the Sovol and not trusting the SSR board that they are using, that they just went like, you know what, let's just be safe and put in an R3MEN SSR, which is great. I love it. I love to see a company take responsibility for the mods that you are going to install. So let me stop yapping. Let me replace the bed. This is the heated bed of the Sovol SV08, and what we can see is this completely encased in plastic, and it is sitting on a bunch of plastic. Now, if you would ask my opinion about it, I think this is far from ideal, and this is probably also a little bit why we are seeing such a bad bed mesh, because we are fighting plastics on plastics with aluminum on top. This is probably not going to be perfect as an injection molded part. Okay, there are some aluminum rails beneath it, but yeah, you cannot account for the variance that you are going to see, because right over here you can also see we have plastic studs sitting on plastic. Now, if I have to guess, by this bolt and spacer, this spacer will be sitting right up here on top, and the bed will be resting on that. Something like this. Another thing is he is only delivering with 4 spacers instead of 6. So we are just going to put a bolt on each corner of the plate. And with that, the R3MEN bed is installed. The only complaint I have so far is going to be that the flex plate is going to be way harder to install. The original bed had 2 lips on that side, and right now we lost those. Ideally, I would like to see a little lip in the back that we could push our flex plate to, so maybe we have to do a user mod in order to make the install of the flex plate a lot easier. But I'm looking forward to see how the bed is going to perform, but right now I need to turn it around and we need to do our electrical connections. I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to give you a little overview on how to connect everything to the new SSR. You can also see in the instructions that we have to do some calibrations and some code changes. Also, I figured out by reading the manual that this sanding block is not for the graphite bed. It is actually for the magnet. So when you're doing your bed mesh, and you can see you have a bit of a bump on some places, he described that the limitations are not going to be the graphite bed, but the accuracy limitations are actually going to be the magnet. And if you can see some bumps, you can sand these down with this little block. Now, I think it's a little bit of an overkill, but nonetheless, it is a very nice detail to have. Alright, this is how my system is now looking like. I can already tell you, if you're going to do this mod, you will 100% invalidate your warranty. Now, I'm going to scoot you a little bit closer because there are some details in here that I really want to show you off, because there are some points of concern. So first of all, the SSR is now located here. The control wires are right up there, and we have hooked them up to these ports. That is going to be the gray and the brown wire. Then we have our thermistor wire right over here. This was included in the bed. The cabling for the SSR2 here is not included. Then we have this whole situation going on. So I snipped off the ground wire and I snipped off the neutral wire of the inputs. To be safe, I have put on a Wago so we don't short with this frame. Then also the yellow cable that is delivered with this heated bed for the 110 volt systems is also shielded with a Wago. And then we have combined every ground together so we can ground the bed. We have also our ground to our PSU and we have a ground running to the frame because that cable is also not included. So you want to be sure if you're going to replace the SSR that some wires will be bare, cap them off with something insulating. So that basically is going to be it for this part. Now we have to close everything off and go into the config and make some changes. Also do a PID tune and all of that. Here is going to be a little side note. I had to make a little flap right over here so my cables could pass. I just grounded a little line with my angle grinder and I just bent the tap and deburred everything. It is quite long. Not sure why he provided cables this long. He could do with a lot less than that. This is going to be the change that you need to make. We need to change the sensor type and we can add the max temperature of 130 degrees. We have established that right now that is 100 degrees Celsius, and then we need to do a PID calibration. If you have no clue how to do this, it is very easy, but first let me boot up the printer. So the system is back on and I can actually see that the heated bed is now giving us 20 degrees Celsius. So it is not that far off, but let's do the configuration anyway. And then let's do the PID calibrations. So we need to go to our machine. Then we need to find printer.cfg, which is this one. And then we have to find our heated bed. Here we have it, heater pin, and then our sensor type. So sensor type we need to change. And I'm just going to copy paste this part on the right. This is our sensor type. And we are going to replace this section, Ctrl V, and now this should be our new sensor type. Let's do a save and restart and see if the printer is going to complain. And before I do that, let's also change this 105 to 130. Save and restart. Here we have it, no errors on the printer. We can start our PID calibrations. I also see that this temperature probe is now way more sensitive. We can see that the refresh rate right over here is actually super fast. Now right here on the left, under macros, we don't have a macro to do PID calibrations, which is unfortunate. Now luckily, Nick from R3MEN also included this little code that we can now enter in our console. I am going to pick the same 65 degrees and we are going to press enter. We can see that the heated bed is starting to get hotter, so this is working perfectly fine. So far everything is working like it should. So we are now slamming 1000 watts of heat in this heated plate. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if this bed is actually going to be warped or not, or if we are going to find any issues with the graphite bed. All right, the bed meshing is done. Let's give it a look. And this is already looking way better than we could see with the default profile. We have a range of 0.31 and this is going to be without any heat soaking. Almost half of what we started with. Now I'm going to give it the best benefit of the doubt. Going to preheat it to 65 degrees for about 15 minutes and I will redo this testing all over again. All right, we did over 30-minute heat soak right over here. Let's look at the height map and we can see 0.327 and we have a little bit of a taco going on. Now, why is that? I have no clue, but I have a feeling that it might be the mounting pressure right over here, here, and here. So what I'm going to do is loosen these 4 bolts, redo the testing and see if that is going to help. So these are now just finger tight. Let's redo the testing and see if we can get that bow out of it. And my presumptions were correct. We now only have a 0.12 of deviation on the complete build plate. So tensioning the bolts of the build plate is going to influence how the bed is acting. So we dropped about 70% of the warp and we are now super flat. I think the remaining curve right over here is still going to be the limitations of the fastening system, but right now this is looking very promising. So yeah, it looks like the mounting system of the heated bed is going to be the biggest problem if you're going to over tighten it. And it was not by a lot, it was just what I consider tight. We can see that the whole thing is going to start warping on you. What we also could see is if we did the bed level at 5 minutes or 30 minutes, the mesh was absolutely the same with almost zero deviations, which also means that heat soaking apparently is just not necessary. So what I'm going to do now is just bump it up to 100 degrees and then immediately do a bed mesh to see how bad it is, because right now it seems that our current problem is fixed. So I homed it, then it heated up to the temperature for quad gantry level, which was from 70 to 100 degrees, and immediately did my first level or mesh calibration, and the result is actually quite mind-blowing. If we do that with an aluminum bed, yeah, we would not get these results. Let's check it out right up close. So this is the result without any heat soaking. So we have a range of 0.158. This is absolutely stupid level for a build plate that is 350 by 350. This is an amazing first level without any heat soaking. So I'm going to change my configuration back to 65 degrees. We are going to do some thermal imaging to see how the heat distribution is over the complete plate, and then do a first level test and see with the same speeds of the previous test. So I'm not going to change anything on the file. I'm going to reprint the same file, and then we are going to see if we are going to have a better bed mesh level or not. So we fixed 2 problems right now, and I think even 3 problems. I fixed the main fan, which was horrible. I fixed the hot end, so the thing right over here, I switched it with a plug and play micro Swiss hot end. It just turns out you can replace it with a regular one, high flow one, hardened one, and the Sovol one was an absolute nightmare to switch out your hot end, and I can't wait for INDX to show up and see how good it is going to work on this Sovol SV08. This is going to be the bed heating of the graphite bed. We can see a maximum temperature of 62 degrees in the middle with the 59 degrees on the side. But we can also see right here on the left, we do have a little bit more of a cold spot. So judging from the thermal camera, we can see that this corner right over here is a little bit colder than all the rest. And here we have it, the first layer result. It was the second attempt. The first attempt I needed to do a little bit of a Z offset adjustment. Not sure why. We had to drop about 0.04 for the perfect squish. So I did a second one and it is looking absolutely beautiful, except for this little purge droplet that was sitting in this corner right over here. You are going to see some other extrusion, and it was because the print head was hitting this little blob. Oh well, the rest is looking absolutely perfect. Let's have a close look, shall we? This is going to be our first layer. We still see a little bit of inconsistency. You can see it by the striping, but we have far from what we had before on our Sovol. So let me peel it and then we can compare it with the other one. Or maybe just show the other one. This is going to be the other one. And this has all buckling and rippling going on. And this is as smooth as it's going to get. So this was the first layer on the stock bed. We can definitely see a bunch of buckling right over here and a bit of buckling right over here. We can see it even on this part. We have some buckling going on. And then if we compare it with the graphite bed, this is day and night difference. No more buckling. Now the little bit of differences that we can still see on this build plate doesn't necessarily mean that this is the build plate. We are using an inductive probe. These are not perfect for your bed leveling. All I can say is this is an amazing result. This has been preheated for 5 to 10 minutes. and we started that print. One thing we didn't talk about is going to be the pricing, and I want your opinions. I want to know if it is in line with your expectations or if it's a little bit too expensive for you. So the official pricing right now is 145 euros. This is without shipping. I believe it is around 20 to 25 euros to get it shipped. And this is for the Sovol SV08. For that, you are getting an R3MEN SSR. The heated pad is included and the magnet on top is also included. So there is some value except for the heated bed. Is this enough for you? Is it too expensive? I want to hear your comments. So during the making of this video, I had some opinions. I have shared these opinions with Nick and he came back with some answers that I'm going to share with all of you. So first of all, I was talking to him about the bed wires being very long and he stated that they already made the changes in the new batch. They started with 1 meter, so these cables were 1 meter long and they are now only 60 centimeters. That is going to be a lot better because we have a bunch of cables doing nothing. So you can consider that already being fixed. The cables are not that long anymore. Then I had to make a little bit of my own wiring loom between the main board and the SSR that Nick provided with this kit. He also stated that they have prepared wires for the new batches. So if you are going to get the Sovol SV08 bed with an SSR, the cables will be present to hook up the main board and the SSR, which is already a very nice feature. Then I also talked with Nick about my experience tightening the bed. If I tighten it a little bit too hard, we start to see a deviation of 0.3, and when I barely tighten the bolts and they are countersunk bolts, also the plate is countersunk, we can see that we drop all the way down. The best I had was 0.1. If you very slightly tighten those bolts, then you can get extremely flat surfaces on any temperature that you are taxing this printer with. So mounting solution, it is not really the problem of Nick, I believe. We are mounting on a plastic base. We are not mounting directly on the aluminum frame beneath it. Who knows if the plastic that the spaces are sitting on are good enough or not. I told him that maybe it would be better to ditch the countersunk ones, make the holes bigger and use regular bolts like they do on the Voron series. He is thinking about doing that, or at least testing if it is going to give better results. So I think it's super great to already hear from Nick himself that the complaints I had were already worked on. This is absolutely amazing to work with people like Nick that actually appreciate the feedback that I give to them instead of gaslighting you and then do whatever they think about it. Then Nick is the perfect example case that if a company just listens to the public, implements the ideas or just the general improvements, then we all get a better product in the end. Now, this is not a sponsored video. I have paid for everything so I can be as unbiased as possible. If you appreciate that, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. We have a lot more videos coming up in the future, especially on the Sovol SV08. We are going to completely index the shit out of this printer. So if you are interested to see my experience on the index, that will also be paid for. So we're not going to review the index that is going to be delivered for free. Very important, for free. And make sure that you're subscribed. Give a big like on this video. And if you feel very frisky, maybe consider becoming a member for only $1 a month. You can be a legend just like these guys right over here. There will be links down below. Those will be affiliated. So I will earn a little kickback if you decide to use the link. It is not going to cost you more. It is just helping me out directly. Thank you for watching. And guys, I see you in the next one.